Hi, my name is Algernon Albritton. I'm a financial specialist and certified FICO professional at Family First Financial. Today we're going to discuss credit and how it can affect your employment and what to do about it. So, if you're an active job hunter or you're considering switching careers, you should be aware that when you complete and sign an application for prospective employment, you may also be giving the employer authorization to review your credit history. The credit check authorization statement can easily be missed if you don't thoroughly review the application before signing. And because the job market has become so competitive, employers are using credit history as a determining factor of employment. And as crazy as it sounds, your credit history can put you at the top or bottom of the list to get the job. Even if you have excellent references, a ton of experience that qualifies you for the job or even overqualifies you for the job, your credit history is enough to disqualify you for the job. Now, when employers review your credit history, they cannot see a credit score or a numerical number. However, they can see a summary of accounts. And when I say summary of accounts, I mean they can look at your collection history, your payment history, any open accounts you may have, how much debt you may have, and any public records, if any. And then most employers that require a credit check, they actually have credit guidelines. So if your credit history does not fall in these credit guidelines, it may be cause to have you disqualified for the position. An example of these guidelines may be you may not be able to have over $5,000 in collections. That may not be acceptable for the position. And if you do have $5,000 in over collections when they pull the credit report, then that's when you may receive that disqualification letter in the mail. Now, the credit guidelines depend heavily on the type of position and the industry. Banks and financial institutions, they're known to have more stringent guidelines because employees may have direct access to funds and important and sensitive financial information. And the theory is, if you're in a lot of debt, you may be tempted to steal to pay the debt. And a lot of people don't, but that's their theory. And again, I mean, these are top institutions, and they have all types of things in place to secure themselves. And the same thing actually goes for top security positions with the government, where you also have to have pretty good credit, or you have to have a pretty good explanation of why your credit is not good to get the top clearance. They will not grant top clearance if you cannot provide some type of documentation that's showing that you are working on improving these accounts or these areas that are raising red flags. Now, if you're like most people, you're saying, hey, look, I have bad credit because I've lost my job and I'm trying to get a new job so I can pay my bills and get my credit back on track. So, I mean, how does this make sense for me? Like, this isn't helping me at all because I have bad credit. I can't get a job, but the only reason I have it is because I lost a job in the first place. I mean, what can I do to improve this, and what can I do to get past it so I can get that job? The first thing you should do is you should actually contact your recruiter, and you should ask them, is a credit check required before you go in for the final interview and fill out that application. If they do tell you, hey, a credit check is required, you want to ask them, what are the guidelines? You want to get as much information as you can, and you want to put this information in front of you so you can prepare to go back in and get the job. Now, the next thing you want to do is gather all three of your credit reports, okay? You want to gather these reports from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. A great place to gather these reports from is annualcreditreport.com. They actually give you all three credit reports for free. You get a chance to pull them once every 12 months, and it's provided by all three credit bureaus by law. The next thing you want to do is you want to go through your credit reports and you want to perform what's called an accuracy check, okay? And in this accuracy check, you want to highlight all the accounts that are basically bad accounts, all of your collection accounts, all of your charge-offs, all of your public records. And you want to add the amounts of the actual dollar amounts, and you want to compare not only your credit history, but those dollars amounts that you added up with the guidelines that you were given by the recruiter, if you were given any. Now, note any public records of judgments, because a lot of times they don't include it, but it does raise red flags, and it can cause some issues. So you definitely want to be aware of that, and you want to write a statement explaining why you may have received that judgment, or what you're doing about that judgment, or other public record of bankruptcy, or whatever the case may be. Now, again, you want to go through your credit report and you want to add up all the balances. You want to use the line that actually says balance left. So in the charge off, the balance may be zero. But in the collection, the balance may be, $2,000 or $3,000, and you may see the same account reported twice, one with the collection agency and one with the original creditor. and unfortunately they are counting up both of those accounts, so they don't look like separate accounts to them because they don't know that it's a separate account. It may not go in as much detail in the credit report that they're looking at, so they're going to treat those as two separate debts. So I definitely say add everything up to cover your bases. You also want to calculate debt that you have, even if it is positive debt, just to make sure you don't have a obscene amount of debt, a lot of debt basically, because in the guidelines it may state, if you have over X amount of dollars of debt or some type of debt to ratio. So it's something you also want to look at, and you definitely want to study the guidelines and check them very thoroughly to make sure that you're going to fall within those guidelines. Now, you want to take a highlighter. A highlighter is very important in this case because you're going to highlight these judgments, these collections, and you're going to highlight the balances. Now, you're going to go back to the highlighted areas and you're going to review them to make sure that they're completely accurate. You want to make sure that the dates are accurate, that the amounts are accurate, and that the responsibility is accurate. And they're going to say responsibility individual or joint account. You want to make sure that that's correct because the credit bureaus do make a lot of mistakes and they can mismerge different accounts, and you want to make sure that you're not getting denied an opportunity for employment because of a mismerged account. Now, if you locate an inaccuracy, highlight that inaccuracy in a different color and refer to it later on down the line, because you are going to want to address that inaccuracy. And if everything is being reported on your credit report and everything is accurate, then you definitely need to locate the information for the accounts that are highlighted. You want to contact the information, which can be found at the bottom of the credit report right above all the disclosures, and they usually list all of the contact information for every account on your credit report so that you can contact them and straighten anything out with them first before you go to the credit bureau. And it's their way of saving themselves some time. Now, depending on the account type, you may need to negotiate or satisfy the highlighted debt. So you want to check your finances. You want to decide if you can afford to do any negotiating or any paying down of any of these debts in case you do have some debts that you can go ahead and knock out. And what you do is you call them and you say, hey, listen, I want to negotiate this debt. I want to go ahead and settle this debt, this collection. And you can try with a very low number, start with a very low number, and you kind of work your way up. And if you're lucky, the call will be short and be sweet, and in the end you'll be provided with both a receipt and a debt satisfaction letter. And this is something you want to keep in your records. You actually probably want to keep 2 or 3 of them. Email one to yourself, email one to your wife or your husband or another family member so they can keep one as well. You definitely want to make sure you have those on hand. Now, you want to repeat the same steps. Contact them. Listen, hey, I want to go ahead and settle this debt. I want to go ahead and get some type of documentation showing that I'm making payments. Give me a receipt. Give me something to show that I'm working on this debt. And you will do that for all of the highlighted accounts that are completely accurate and you found no inaccuracy. Now, if you located any inaccuracies, then create a dispute letter explaining why the account is inaccurate and what should be updated or removed. Now, be very detailed with your dispute and send the letter certified mail. This way you can say, hey, I have it in my record where I send this, and you guys have 30 to 45 days by law to respond to it. And I didn't get a response, we need to remove everything or whatever the case may be. And when they send a response back, it should come back, and I mean, you should see a few deletions, like here's a public record where they were deleted and different accounts where it's deleted. And that's how it comes back. It says deleted or it says updated. Now, once you get that back, I mean, you should be in great shape. However, one thing to definitely understand is this is it wouldn't be the first step to do like it immediately, because these inaccuracies, these results coming back from the credit agencies and the credit bureaus and collection agencies as well, they're not fast. I mean, just to be blunt, they're not fast. They take a lot of time to come back, usually 30 to 45 days before you see those results. And if you have an interview set and you need to sign that application, that may not fit your time frame. So in that case, another option is to actually call the credit bureaus and speak with the live representative and explain them the inaccuracy again in as much detail as you can. And if you have any type of proof to back it up, you definitely want to fax that in as well. And let them know that you need that account updated immediately. Now, contacting a live person at any of the credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion can definitely be a difficult task. You could end up waiting for 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour. I've helped people do it a lot, and it is definitely burdensome task but hey, you're trying to get the job, so I mean you need to do what you have to do. Now, if you don't have the money available to satisfy the highlighted debts and you don't have the time as well to go through the process, then it's time to definitely pull out your notepad or your notebook, and you need to write a detailed letter explaining why you have these debts and what you're planning on doing to satisfy these debts in the near future. Now, if you've dealt with any extenuating circumstances, then explain those in as much detail as possible. The key here is to be as detailed as possible. A lot of people know that the economy has taken its toll on a lot of families and put people in a lot of bad situations that they otherwise would not have been in. People worked 20, 30 years at one job and all of a sudden they're laid off. So it is not uncommon for these things to happen, that being in the current economic climate that we're in. So, I mean, writing that letter and being very detailed can work in your benefit. Now, after you've composed the letter and you printed it out, you definitely want to make sure that it's printed on a very high quality stock of paper. This way, when it goes in with the application, it's not something that get all crumbled up and lost, or it's something that they're going to see and something that's going to stand out. And whoever is in charge of the hiring, the HR person, they're going to read this letter. They're going to take the time to read it. It's going to kind of attract their attention. Now, larger companies may have stricter guidelines, and that letter may not be enough. And if that's the case and you're denied employment because of your poor credit history or what's on your credit or any inaccuracies being reported on your credit report, then you may want to inquire about the appeal process. If this is the perfect job for you, if the only reason you can't get it is because of your credit history, it's definitely worth the time to go ahead and inquire to see if they have an appeal process, in which most cases they do have an appeal process. And you want to follow the appeal process to the T, and you also want to continue to work on those highlighted accounts that you identified earlier that were either inaccurate or that you needed to pay down because they were accurate. Now, if you do come back and you receive the results like we were shown earlier, and you can actually request that the credit bureau send those results back out to anyone who pulled your credit, including employment and potential employers. You can require that they send them those updated results, and that may automatically put you back in queue to be looked at as a potential employee. I hope we've been helpful. If you have any questions, please give us a call, 877-366-1545, or look us up on the web, www.family1st, that's familyfirst-financial.com.